Russians really love primitive symbols. Vodka, balalaika, a mummy in the city center.
That's it! They only left the brushwood!
It's amazing, but even the last drunk lying in a puddle by the fence confidently takes pride in the ballet The Nutcracker, as if he has anything to do with it.
I have a day off today!
But above all, Russians adore phallic symbols. The Sarmat missile, the Ostankino Tower, and of course, the Crimean Bridge, whose size is obviously meant to compensate for the small geostrategic appendage of the pale dictator.
Russia is capable of carrying out such world-class infrastructure projects. After all, it's not only the largest bridge in Russia, but also the longest bridge in Europe.
The Crimean Bridge has become Russia's main pride over the past 10 years. It's a kind of colossus of roads on top of the Tower of Babel riding the Pyramid of Cheops. The whole world was supposed to be amazed and become bipolar.
They fooled us, just blatantly deceived us.
Hymns were composed about the Crimean Bridge, children were named after it, and bizarre movies were made about it.
Welcome to the Crimean Bridge, the biggest bridge in Russia.
During filming of this movie, Bobrov family took hundreds of millions of rubles. The bridge movie cost nearly as much as the bridge.
Alexei Gromov writes to Ministry of Culture demanding 100 million rubles for Simonian without competitions, a non-repayable, non-refundable grant.
The Crimean Bridge became Putin's personal construction project. In reality, it's not even a bridge, but rather handcuffs that chained the occupied peninsula to Mordor.
The ceremony was attended by the country's president, Vladimir Putin. He drove across the bridge behind the wheel of a Kamaz truck. The Crimean Bridge was opened by the bridge builders.
But in the end, the Crimean Bridge became not an achievement, but a curse for Russia, a real headache, and a Damocles sword on which the very existence of the entire state depends. Because of the sacredness and symbolism the Kremlin propaganda has pumped into the Crimean Bridge, its destruction would be a tremendous psychological blow and a point of no return for Muscovy. Now, in the eyes of the majority of the population of the Russian Reich, the fall of the bridge means the fall of the entire empire and the personal defeat and catastrophe for Putin.
The feeling is just, I don't know, I'm getting goosebumps right now. But we haven't even entered the bridge yet, we're just approaching it. This is so awesome!
Just the sun shines above you, even though this plan is quite cunning and not simple at all. We are building a huge bridge on the planet, the Russian, the longest, the Crimean Bridge.
Oh, you Crimean Bridge! How far from simple you are!
Naturally, Ukraine will certainly do everything possible to cut this Russian appendix out of its territory.
Will the Crimean Bridge burn down this year? Well, I hope so. Its existence needs to come to an end.
Connecting Crimea with Taman is not Putin's invention. One of the first to come up with this idea was his spiritual mentor, Adolf Hitler. During the occupation, the Nazis really did try to build a bridge across the Kerch Strait in 1942. And the goal was the same as Putin's, to provide convenient logistics for their invading troops and to turn Crimea into a military base and staging ground, because sea transport was vulnerable to attacks from the Soviet fleet and the Air Force, just as now the Orks sea transport is vulnerable to Ukrainian drones. It's obvious that Putin was inspired by the Third Reich's plans and literally adopted them. The Nazis viewed Crimea as an important strategic point for further operations in the region. In exactly the same way, after building the bridge, Putin used it for further invasion into Ukraine.
A coincidence? I don't think so.
The Nazi project envisioned the construction of a railway and road bridge based on the design of the Soviet bridge, which the Soviets didn't manage to finish in 1941 because they were retreating. The Germans also didn't manage to finish the bridge because they were retreating in 43. And in general, the whole idea turned out to be very expensive, so the Third Reich abandoned it. It was only in 1944 that the USSR finally managed to build a temporary railway bridge using unfinished German remnants, but it was literally swept away by ice.
What is that?
Since then, they decided not to mess around with bridges in the Kerch Strait anymore and to make do with ferries. Later, Crimea became part of Ukraine, and the issue basically became irrelevant because all supplies came from Ukraine. But in the 21st century, a new Nazi state appeared in the world, and Russia, following in the best traditions of Adolf Laizovich, nevertheless erected this marvel of fascist architecture.
From now on, figuratively speaking, Crimea is no longer an island. Crimea is now forever connected to the mainland of our vast country by the solid foundation of the bridge.
The euphoria quickly faded because it turned out that Putin had built the largest target in human history. In principle, the Crimean Bridge could be called the Crimean shooting range. With the start of the full-scale invasion, the Crimean Bridge, to put it mildly, started taking hits. From the front, from the back, from above, from the side, and from below. On October 8, 2022, Ukrainian intelligence carried out an elegant operation called A Package from Your Boy. A truck exploded on the Crimean Bridge, which was coming from the Krasnodar region. It blew up at the exact moment when a train carrying fuel was passing over the bridge.
Just look, the Crimean Bridge is on fire. It just went off 2 minutes ago. Can you see anything now? What, they blew up the bridge, yeah.
The bridge is definitely not intact. Several spans collapsed, and traffic across it was shut down. On July 17, 2023, Ukrainian surface drones attacked Putin's cuticle and blew up part of the roadbed.
When we hit the target successfully, it was a real explosion of emotions. All men are a bit like children, everyone started jumping around.
As a result, the Kremlin frantically began building massive defenses around the bridge. They brought in air defense systems from all over the country, military ships, and naval barriers. The strait was blocked off with barges, rusty ships, and buoys. They brought in so much anti-aircraft equipment that the entire European part of Russia was left bare and defenseless against Ukrainian drones. Moscow is spending colossal resource, human, technical, and financial to protect the bridge. But even despite all this, it keeps getting hit. And sooner or later, it will be destroyed anyway.
There will be many surprises, both at sea and in the sky, regarding Crimea and other temporarily occupied territories.
These drones are modified jet skis Ukrainian armed forces convert into kamikazes. One appears in the video. Some say they carry up to half a ton of explosives. During the Black Sea attack, an American MQ-9 Reaper UAV was flying. In fact, no one is even really trying to hide anything at all.
The Crimean Bridge is the crystal vase of the Putin regime. A fragile, expensive showpiece, like a Fabergé egg. Only this Putin's egg has no cultural value. It has only legal significance as one of the pieces of evidence of his crimes. Everyone has already forgotten how Putin pompously opened the bridge himself. Now this structure is constantly being closed due to the threat of bombings and is firmly associated with something temporary and dangerous. The mood among the occupiers in Crimea itself is also very gloomy. More and more of the visiting Lapton-footed animals are getting back on their skis and returning to their native swamp haven. Those who moved to Crimea after 2014 are now literally sitting on their suitcases, praying that the bridge will hold out until the moment they urgently need to escape. None of them have any doubt anymore that Crimea will be deoccupied.
I really don't want to leave Crimea, Alushta. It's so great here.
You've gotten used to it by now, haven't you?
I've gotten used to it here. It felt like living in my own home. Everything is so warm and homely.
According to experts, half of the newcomers will flee even before deoccupation begins. Which makes sense, because by the time Ukrainian defense forces enter, the Crimean Bridge is unlikely to still be intact.
It's terrible. What happened, of course. The events were awful. I don't even know how to get out of here now.
It's a shame the bridge is bad.
I feel sorry for the bridge. And now it's a problem figuring out how to leave.
Lately, residents of Crimea have been actively buying up real estate in the Krasnodar region. What could that mean?
It's not clear at all.
The Russian world is preparing for a great resettlement of Vatniks back to lands rich in hawthorn and domestic violence. And they really don't have much time left at all before the Kerch Bridge, which is so crucial, eventually turns into what will be known as the Kerch Coral Reef.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.